All right, so what we did, I showed you how to prep the area up once it's messed up in this area here, over here, over here. This is a very, very extreme, what can I say, screw up. So this is another proof, and I'm going to say this again, that even professionals that have been doing all their life are going to mess up. So now that we got the whole thing taped off, you can see that I'm going to blend the paint into this door. And here's a good example of what this car looks like. You can see rust right here, it's dented in. So the whole vehicle all the way around is like that. But even though it's still like that, I want to do a professional job.
Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the body shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
So now that we have everything prepped up, what I got in here is epoxy primer. Now we're not adding reducer to it because the reducer will react with the clear coat. So we can only use the hardener and the epoxy primer, which that's the only requirements that epoxy primer actually is supposed to be added. Now this is not 2K primer with reducer. Anybody that tells you that is stupid, okay? They're brainwashed, they're zombies. Epoxy primer is totally different than 2K primer. So what we do, and come on over here, I want you to listen to this. That's about normal air pressure of what you would spray. But what we're going to do, we're going to turn the air pressure up. And the reason we're going to do that is because we want that epoxy primer to come out dry. We want the air to already be drying the epoxy primer. We want it to go on in a dry substance instead of a wet substance. I've also turned my pattern down and I've turned the volume down all the way. Let's go ahead and test it on some cardboard here. Do you see how dry that's going on? Body shop girl. That's what we want. We don't want a full wet coat like this. When you do a full wet coat versus a dry coat, what happens is the chemicals in this will react with our brand new clear. So it's very important to make sure that you put 2 to 3 dry coats. So we're going to put it on dry with high air pressure. All right, come on over here, and you can see how nice and smooth that is now, where all that fuck up was, we're going to call it. So now that's already dry because I'm using like 80 PSI on my gun. I'm going to go ahead and repeat my process. And now I'm going to go ahead and put one light coat on the whole area. also see I moved my paper up here, whereas I was blending here, so we got to bring it into here and stop. Do you notice how far I'm holding the gun back? And another thing is, when you use it on the high pressure and you put it on a dry substance, you can see there's no orange peel and it's very, very smooth. I got my fuel door, I went ahead and sanded it, but since that is brand new clear, we're going to go ahead and put a dry coat of epoxy on it. Just like that. Okay, so we're going to let that dry for approximately 30 to 45 minutes. Then we're going to come back, put our base coat on top of that. We're going to do the same process, dry coats, and then we'll put our clear coat on. We'll see you then. Now that we got the epoxy primer on, you can see how nice and smooth it went on using the dry system. We are now ready to go ahead and apply our paint. So let's go over there and mix it up, and I'm going to show you the secret trick that it really takes to do something like this. So we got the correct paint. I had to travel 125 miles one way to get that. That's the genuine paints. If you live in the Western Slope area, visit them. Tell them my friend Pete sent you. Let them know that I'm doing my job to promote the awesome jobs that they're doing. So we finally got the paint. Let's go ahead and open it up, and what we're going to do is we are going to mix this at a 50-50 ratio, and we're going to use, what we're going to use on this, it's like almost 75 degrees in my shop. We should be using medium reducer, but instead we're going to go ahead and use fast reducer. Now what the fast reducer is going to do, it is going to let the paint dry at a very fast speed, and that's the name of the game when it comes to putting this paint on. I actually screwed up. I said that I was going to mix it 50-50. That means half paint, half reducer. I'm going to actually use more paint, less reducer, because remember I told you the reducer is what reacts to the clear coat. So we want to use less reducer, but we also want to put enough reducer in there where the paint's going to flow out and it's not going to be orange peely. Alright, I got my paint in the gun. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to turn our air pressure up, and we're going to put several dry coats on it. Once those coats have dried, we're going to come back and then we will put a good wet coat on it to blend it all in. On a silver like this, you don't want to put it on real thick because it will get blotchy, and we will get blotches in it. You don't want that. Alright, I'll go ahead and repeat myself 2 to 3 more times doing a dry paint job, and you can see how dry it is. And that's a good thing to do because it won't get blotchy and all glumpy on us, and it'll come out smooth. So we need to put 2 to 3 more dry coats on it. Another reason we're going to do the dry coats is because we do not want the paint to blister. The reducer in the paint will react with the clear that's on here and make it blister. We do not want that. Remember right here, okay, let's not do that again. We'll let that dry for about 10 or 15 minutes. We'll come back and repeat our process, and then on our last coat, will blend into the door, and then a nice overall coat blending up into the roof panel, and I think we're ready for clear coat. Now that we got our paint applied, you can see came out really, really nice. And we're ready to go ahead and clear coat this. And we're going to use our dry effect on the first coat. And then we'll work into 2 full wet coats to get everything blended in and clear coated. Okay, we just got done color sanding and buffing it, and it came out, I'm not going to say flawlessly perfect. This car is 20 years old. The original paint's faded on it, but I'm going to say it came out the best that it's going to get, being in the shape that it is, and we're going to look at that once I get all the paper and tape off. Now normally on a vehicle like this, being 20 years old, you wouldn't buff it. But with all the action that we went through and all the stipulations and the trials and everything else, we had to buff it because the surface was very rough and it just needed buffed out to do a nice professional job. Most people wouldn't buff it. They would have just said, here's your car, have a nice day. But once again, my friend Pete tries to do the job that I would want done to it. So I'm already speculating that this paint is not going to match over here. We did the best we could on this, being a 20-year-old car with faded paint and peeling paint and rust on the vehicle. And I'm sure the owner will agree with me that it came out pretty good. Being an old car like this, like I said, and you can see that it didn't match flawlessly perfect, but it's a lot closer than the last paint job, and we'll look at that in a minute. Okay, we finally got the paint job done on our disaster. If you look right here, you can see it came out really smooth. I did end up having to buff it. The paint didn't match perfect. You can kind of see that here. But let's look up here. This is where we really want to look. Can you see where all this paint's peeling off? You can see paint peeling off here. And there's a lot of other damage on the vehicle besides that, and we'll walk around it in a minute. But now you know that if you ever run into that problem and it turns out to be a real clusterfuck of a fucking situation, what we just did, and I just showed you, is probably the biggest disaster that you'll ever run into when having an issue with painting a car. Once again, this is just proof that even professionals like me make mistakes. And every paint and body shop in the world will always make mistakes on whatever they do. It doesn't matter what it is. So when you're watching a YouTube video and it comes out flawlessly perfect, that's because that's all they want to show you. They don't want to show you what the reality of the whole thing is. And when I say reality, I'm talking real. We ended up having to blend into this door. I didn't want to. I contacted the insurance company. Of course, they laughed at me. They're not going to pay to blend on a 20-year-old car, which I don't blame them. But at least we did a square deal job for the owner. We had to travel 250 miles to get the paint that we needed, and it came out pretty decent. I ended up blending it right into this area here. You can't even tell. You can see the door, the front door. I blended it. You can't tell that it was blended. Come on up here. Let me show you what's going on. You can see right here the front fender's wrecked. We got the hood is wrecked right here. We got that pillar right there. It's got rust on it. All the paint on the top of the vehicle is faded out and peeling off.
The windshield's cracked.
Windshield's cracked. We got all this damage. Look at the grill. Original headlight looks like shit. This bumper is falling off here. We got this going on. I'm thinking if he ever hits another rock, that's just going to completely fall off. Damage there. So, like I said before, we did the best we could on it. Let's walk around and look at it again. And I think the owner will be happy. This is Pete, my friend Pete, your friend Pete. Remember, mistakes are always made on anything you do in life. It doesn't matter what it is. You can be washing the dishes and break the water faucet hose. It's a mistake. You can, what else can we do? Go to the bathroom and run out of toilet paper by mistake. That would suck, but it happens, people. So, you know, let's just all be happy with what we got, do what we can do to make others happy, and share our experiences with everybody to let them know this is not a perfect fucking world. I did what I can do. It's a done fucking deal. I lost my ass on the job, but I like to make sure that the owner is happy. The end. Thank you. Goodbye. Mother